All right, hey guys, Mr. Kyle, Myers Mathematics, and let's just jump right into it. This is completing the square. We want to find the value of c that completes the square. So this is not completing the square factoring. It's like the first part. So if you're looking for that, I believe that's already actually been done in this series, which is kind of weird. I'm trying to go through all the things in order, but some of them don't really seem like they're in order. This one is just finding the value of c. So all you're doing is using the formula. If you have the equation like it is for number 1, then you have ax squared plus bx plus c. We're trying to find out what c is supposed to be. We know a and b. We don't know c. So for instance, on number 1, a is 1 and b is negative 38. We're trying to find out what c is supposed to be. So the formula isn't ax squared plus bx plus c. That's just how you know which letter is which. It's basically the first letter you see, which is supposed to be the number in front of x squared, which hopefully there isn't a number in front of x squared, because that actually makes things a little more complicated. And then the number in the middle. And really, it's just the number in the middle that we want, because we don't know what c is. So the formula is b over 2 squared equals c. And actually, let me write this off to the side. b over 2 squared equals c. Right? And that way I have a little more space here. b over 2 squared equals c. So you take half and square it. And that's it. So negative 38. And it actually doesn't matter if you keep the sign of the number, because you're going to square it, so c should always be positive. You actually don't need to keep that sign if you don't want to. All right? Well, 38 over 2 is 19. And 19 squared, I don't know if I have that one memorized, actually. It would be 20 and 18, 361. 361. So the way I just did that in my head was, it's a little trick you can do, and you can do it in your head. It's a lot of steps, and it sounds like something that you might not be able to do in your head, but because all of the steps to do this little trick are simple, as long as you can hold numbers in your head pretty okay, you have pretty good working memory. This is how I normally square numbers that I don't have memorized. What you do is you round the number. So 19, if I round it, I can round it up to 20. It would round up to 20. If I wanted to do algebra to get from 19 to 20, I'd have to add 1. So then in order to, do this trick, you do the opposite. You subtract 1. So if I round up to 20. Algebraically, I had to add 1. So I also subtract 1. Then I take these two numbers and I multiply them. And it's a little easier to multiply those kinds of numbers in your head, because it's really just a 1-digit number times a 2-digit number, and then you add a 0. Right? So it's 2 times 18. If I double 18, I get 36. 18 doubled is 36. Add a 0. And then the last step is, in order to find out what to add to that, I take the difference, either the difference between 19 and 20 or 19 and 18, which is still 1, and I square it, which is still 1, and then I add it to 360. So it's a lot of steps, but if you give it a shot, try to do it by hand a couple times, and then try to start doing it in your head. Some numbers are easier to square in your head than others. 19 is not that bad because it rounds up to 20, so then you can just double the other number. So basically any number that's like between 15 and 25, numbers between 15 and 25 would be good. Or any number that ends in 5. 5s work out really well, because then you round it up, you round it down, and they're both numbers that end in 0, so you're really just multiplying two 1-digit numbers. And then you add like a 25 on the end, because the difference is 5. So if you want to try that trick out, if you want to try to get some practice with that and see if you can start squaring numbers in your head, especially if you have a test coming up on this and you can't use a calculator. I would recommend knowing how to square numbers in your head pretty quickly. So obviously the best way is just to memorize a bunch. But I don't have them all memorized. I didn't remember what 361, the 19 squared is. So anyways, we're done with number 1. That's it. 361. That's the answer. So on to number 2. B over 2 squared. Half of 32 is 16. 16 is 256. And that's the answer. Right? C is always positive, so it doesn't really matter if you keep the negative on the B. I usually do because reasons. It has to do with if you're going to do completing the square factoring. If you're going to factor by completing the square, it helps to keep that number, because B over 2 is actually what the factors turn into. Let me show you what I mean. On number 4, let me show you. So for number 4, if I keep the sign, it's positive. So 24 over 2 is 12, which means when I am done factoring, it's actually just m plus 12 squared. 12 squared is 144. So 144 is the answer to number 4, but if you wanted to factor it, you always do the variable, whatever the variable is. It's usually x, but on this worksheet there's a lot of different ones. It's usually x, so it would be x and then plus b over 2, right? And then if b over 2 is negative, it would be, minus instead of plus, but x plus b over 2 quantity squared. That's the answer to completing the square, like factoring wise. So that's why I usually keep the sign, but you don't need to, so it's up to you. This one's a little different. Negative 5/3 over 2 squared. If you divide by 2, that's the same thing as multiplying by a half, which then this would be negative 5 over 6 squared. Okay? So if you divide by 2, that's the same thing as timesing by a half. Same thing with other numbers as well. Like if it was negative 5/3 divided by 3, that's the same thing as negative 5/3 times 1/3. Negative 5/3 divided by 4. Same thing as negative 5/3 times 1/4. Probably get the picture now. So if you're dividing by just a single number, just flip it and times it. And that's actually what you do with fractions as well. It's just a little easier to think about that in your head maybe. But if you've heard of keep, change, flip before, that's what's going on there. So the other thing too is when you're squaring fractions, you're going to square the top number and the bottom number separately. So 5 squared, negative 5 squared is 25. 6 squared is 36. The answer is 25 over 36. That's C. You square the top number and the bottom number separately. Still a fraction. And you don't ever have to worry about simplifying it when you're done squaring it if the original thing was in simplest terms. If the original fraction's in simplest terms, like you can't, divide them both by 2 or something, then when you square it, it's still not going to divide by anything. Like it's not going to simplify. All right, so you don't have to worry about that. As long as the fraction is in simplest form before you square it, you don't have to check to see if it simplifies afterwards. Okay, let's change colors. Start switching around here. Negative b over 2 squared. 14 over 2 is 7. 7 squared is 49. Right? Always positive. Negative 2/5 over 2. So that's negative 2/5 times 1/2. The 2's cancel here, and it'd have negative 1/5 squared. Negative 1 squared is positive 1. 5 squared is 25. So we have that. Okay. What about number 7? So what I'm going to start doing is with these fractions, I'm just going to skip straight to timesing by a half, because that's what we always do. So 22/13 times a half squared. Same thing as dividing by 2, so I'm going to skip straight to that now. That simplifies to 11. So it's 11/13. That was supposed to be a parentheses. 11 squared is 121. 13 squared is 169. And there we go. Number 8. 7 over 2. It's a whole number. I just divided by 2. 7 over 2 squared. 7 squared is 49. 2 squared is 4. And we're done. Okay. Same thing with number 9. 17 does not divide by 2, so I just square both. 17 squared is 289, I believe, over 4. All right, 42, the answer to life, the universe, and everything. 42 over 2 is 21, aka 9 plus 10. Another math meme. 21 squared. I don't know if I have that one memorized either. Oh, wait, yeah, I do. 441. 441. Or if you did the trick, you would do, it would round down to 20. It would round down to 20, which means you'd have to, subtract 1. So you'd add 1, you get 22. 22 times 20 would be 440. The difference is 1, so you add 1. 440 plus 1 is 441. Right, if you do that little trick that I showed you earlier. All right, negative 34 over 2 squared. This is the same thing as before. It's the 17 thing. Well, not the same exact thing as before, but it's 17 squared, which is 289. Kind of want to check that. Do I know that one? I think that's 289. 17. It would round up to 20. It's 3 away, so it'd go down to 14. 14 and 20, it's 280. 3 squared is 9. 289. Yeah. All right, negative 5/14 times 1/2. Right, dividing by 2, same thing as timesing by 1/2, which would then be negative 5 over 28. Ooh, squared. That's 25. 28 squared. 30, 26. 26 times 3. That's a little bit harder to do. Timesing by 3. 30, 26. 26 and 3. 3, 2, 6, 8, 1. 26, 3, 3, 6, 7, 7, 8. 78, 0. 78, 7, 8, 4. Okay. Yeah, I'm going to check that one, because I'm not sure if I held all of those numbers in my head correctly. That one's a little harder to do in your head. 28 squared. 784. All right, I did do the math right in my head. Yeah, it's a little harder when you have to round up to 30, because timesing numbers by 3, timesing a 2-digit number by 3 is not super easy. It's a lot easier to times a 2-digit number by 2, because you just double it. So the little squaring trick is not always the best, but it's pretty good. It's a pretty good trick. It's a fraction already, so I'm going to times it by 1/2. That's negative 11 over 24 squared. 11 is 121. 24, 20, 28, 28, 5, 5, 6, 0, 5, 7, 6. Negative 5/2 squared. 25/4. Right. Definitely you should know squares up to 10. That's what I would highly recommend. And then I would also, I would 100% recommend knowing your squares up to 10. Absolutely. If you don't right now, I would highly recommend knowing them, practice them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squared, 6 squared, 7 squared, all the squares up to 10. 100% recommend if you don't know that right now. I would 70% recommend knowing the squares from 11 to 20. 70% recommend. Yeah. Um, and I 70% recommend only because it's like, well, sometimes I don't always remember some of the squares between 11 and 20 right off the bat because I don't use them as often. So, so I guess I would say, like, try to have them all memorized, but 70% meaning, like, if you only have 7 out of 10 of them memorized at one time, then I'm not gonna like recommend something that I don't even do myself. So, um, yeah. Anyways, that would be my recommendations. Makes this a lot easier if you just know it. You know what I mean? All right, -5, 19 times 1/2. Oof, this is gonna be rough. -5 over 38 squared. Did I already do 38 squared? Because if I did, I don't have to waste my time doing it again. We've done 34. No, I don't see a 38. I think 34 was the one I was thinking of. Ooh, okay. Well, actually, 38's not that bad because it rounds up to 40. And with 40, you just double it twice. 4 is doubled twice. So actually, it's not that bad, really. 38 would round up to 40, and then you'd have to add 2. So you'd go down to 36, double 36 twice. 36 doubled is 72. Double it again, you get 144. 144, add a 0, 1440. And then add another 4 because the difference is 2 and square it. So 1444. Wow. 1444. Who knew that 38 squared was 1444? That's actually kind of a nice number. 1444. 444, I think, is the first 3 digits after the area code of my tutoring cell. Fun fact, my new tutoring cell as of, today, which is, April 12th. So that information, I believe, is on my website. And also, if you need to reach out to me, it's usually better to do email for tutoring. That is, or just if you have a question, or if you want to, just you know respond via email to something that I said in a YouTube video or whatever. My email's in the description below. I put it there primarily for people that are interested in online tutoring. But yeah, shoot me an email. Say hi. 2/5 times 1/2. Oh, this one's much nicer than the one previous. That's 1/5. Squared is 1 over 25. Yeah, that was worlds better than the one previous to it. Okay. -11 over 2. Oh, speaking of things that are in the description below, I also have a link to my website as well. So I mentioned that earlier, that my contact info is on my website. But go check that out too, because I have other free stuff on my website that's not really like YouTube videos, like content stuff. Um, like whenever you've probably Googled something in math before, and you click on something and it like takes you to a page and it like explains it, right? It's like a textbook almost, where it explains it and has like diagrams, illustrations, and that kind of thing, and then like practice problems. So at the time of doing this video, I don't have all of that stuff in there just yet, but that is what I'm working on. So if you watch this video and it's, at least a year later, then I'll start to have some of that stuff on there. But I also have like all of this, like these worked out Kuta software, Algebra 1 worksheets, and other worksheets in the future. All of these worked out worksheets will be on my website as well, but the main free thing that's on my website is the 5 math mistakes everyone makes and how to avoid them, which is kind of like, it's like useful for everyone kind of thing. So no matter where you're at, whatever math class you're in, if you know somebody else that's struggling in math but not Algebra 1, go check that out. That could help them out too. 5 math mistakes everyone makes and how to avoid them. You can grab that on my website, myersmathematics.com. I believe this is 381, I want to say. Maybe I don't have 19 squared memorized either. It'd be 20, 18, 361. 361, because it'd be 360 and then you add 1. 361. 19, 20, 18, 20 times 18, 18 doubled is 36. 360 plus 1. We get 361. All right. 361 over 4. That's the answer to that one. 10 over 2, quantity squared. That is 5 squared, which is 25. We're blasting through these colors real quick here. And we're actually almost done. There are 30 of these things, and we are 2/3 of the way there. And I'll stop yapping as much because we're not really seeing anything that's that new at this point. It's pretty much all just stuff that we've already done. Nothing really crazy happening here. 17 squared, which is 289. So we get all these answers here. And of course, don't take my word for it. You can look up the answers to these worksheets anytime you want. You just Google the name of the worksheet. If it's by Kuta software, it's going to have the answers in it. Unless your teacher pays for Kuta software and then like makes extra worksheets themselves. And then at that point, maybe you wouldn't be able to find. Oh, maybe you wouldn't be able to find it, but usually you can find these all online, and they have the answers included. I'll show you what I mean when we get to the end here. All right, 9/13. Switch colors here. Was it started at blue, so we'll start to go back to indigo here and go the other way. 9/13 times 1/2. 9/28. Nope, not 28. 26. I can math. 26. Ooh, have I done 26 already? Because I don't want to do that one again. 26 is not fun. I've done 28. How have I not done 26 yet? Done 28, done 24. I haven't done 26. Okay. I can do this. Zoom too far. 26. Let's see, it would round to 30. So then that's add 4, so you subtract 4, 22, 22. Well, that's not that bad. 22 and 30, it'd be 660. And then you have a 4 difference, which is 16. So 676. 9 squared is 81. And there we go. All right, -12/2. That's 6 squared is 36. All of these answers are positive. All right. 28/2 is 14. 14 squared is 196. Right. So with these last few, I think I'll just go ahead and just knock them out. They're all even, so they're all going to work out pretty well. And yeah, and so nothing else has happened. Let's just knock out the rest in the same color here. Here you go. Ready? It's 10/2 is 5 squared is 25. 40/2 is 20 squared is 400. Box my answer still. 28/2 is 14 squared is 196. Right? And that's how you do it a little bit faster. You kind of just do it in your head. It's a little harder to do some of those in your head. Some of those I don't think I could have done completely in my head. If I'm careful enough, I can. But probably wouldn't recommend some of those. But if it's an even number, you can do all of that in your head with some practice, for sure. And speaking of practice and things like that, I'm going to go ahead and just scroll down here and show you what the answers are so you can check my work. If I missed any of these, let me know. I don't actually check afterwards to see if I got all the answers right. So there's always possible that I got the answer wrong. Let me know if I did. You can send me a comment in the description below. Be like, yeah, you actually got number 26 wrong. It should have been 17. And I'll just laugh at you. Maybe I'll like your comment, so I'll know that you're trolling me. So anyways, have a great one. I'm going to continue this series on Algebra 1 worksheets. If this is you watching this like for the first time, that's what I'm doing right now. It's Algebra 1 worksheets. And then I'll probably take a break after doing all of the Algebra 1 worksheets that are available online. Do some other videos, just random stuff. Everything from Algebra 1 to Calculus 3. And then maybe I'll start up another one where I do all of the geometry worksheets. Who knows? But for now, that's it. And have a great day.